People are going to get mad at me for saying this, but California is probably one of the worst places to live if you own a car. And there's several reasons I believe that. One being that because of how many people live here, it can be difficult to find a parking space. The other being that, again, because of how many people live here, there's a lot of people on the road, which increases the likelihood of having an accident. But I started thinking about different parking tickets and citations that you might get, let's say, if you're seen with your phone while driving, or speeding. And the more I thought about it, this isn't some epiphany I had recently. It's just something I've been kind of mulling over. Because if you look at actual crimes like, robbery or murder, this is stuff that when you go to jail for it, not only do you not pay a fine, right, for like ending this person's life or stealing this person's stuff, like it's generally understood that this is a moral issue that cannot be compensated with coins. But when you look at a lot of this stuff that people get in trouble for, again, with regard to citations and these like parking tickets, all this like stuff of, you parked here, you didn't do the right thing while you were in your vehicle. It always like it's interesting in that it's couched in this rhetoric of like, we're trying to make the roads safe and we're trying to protect people from a driver that's going too fast or a driver that looks at their phone. But the reality is it's mostly just a way for the city that driver has the misfortune of living in to squeeze some more coins out of the people that are there for this for the city to just make a profit. um I was talking about how LA was going to have these parking tickets that were almost 300. It's like 293 for people that park in these two bus lanes in that city. And I had some, let's just call it what it is, Los Angeles County simps trying to like go and say, oh well, this is not a bad thing and it's no big. It's like I don't necessarily have an issue with a city charging people for violating some rule that they have. My issue was the price. Like why does someone have to piss out almost $300 because they parked somewhere? The two times I received a parking ticket, both of them around 50, $60, right? Which is not, I wouldn't even say it's cheap, but you get the idea that it's a hell of a lot better than paying 4 or 5 or 6 times the price for a pretty similar infraction. And just to go over those tickets, one of them was for parking next to a fire hydrant, and my defense was that whole street was just clogged with cars. Around my job, they have a neighborhood where they've had people get towed over parking in front of someone's house for 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever. And it really just came down to, if I could have parked anywhere else, I would have done that. And of course, I love the irony of you go to work to make money, and then by the time you walk out, most of your damn check went to paying off some stupid ticket. But I'm just saying that's an example of how, where because of the abundance of people, you are given very little options outside of possibly breaking one of these rules that they've decided on. And like I said, they, that city, they're not worried about, oh, there's a fire and the fire hydrant has been blocked by this car and now they won't be able to put out the burning building. No, it is okay, here's some stupid person or some person who didn't have anywhere else to park. Too bad for them. We can squeeze out, half $100 or more over this. And just like with the other tickets, I mean, and I try to be nuanced. I said, look, if someone's driving 70 and a 30, right? And the other people are going at like 40 miles or whatever, and they're like switching between lanes because they're just in such a big rush to get to wherever they're trying to go. I get it. If someone is driving on the freeway at speeds of, 70, 80, 90, and they pull their phone out and they're looking at their map or switching the song over, I can understand where it will appear to be, a danger. But if you have a person who is driving at 70 or 60 on some street that's like 45 and there's no one there, like they're the only car and they're just like they're adhering to lights and whatnot. um or you have a person who pulls out their phone while they're sitting in traffic, like while the light is red, and they're not even moving their car anymore because of the fact that they're adhering to uh the signs. It just starts getting ridiculous because, like I said, it's not, when you see people getting written up for that or a citation or whatever, it's not about protecting people anymore. Someone driving at 60 speed and then stopping at a light and there's no cars around them is not some danger to the greater city that they're residing in. And the person who's only pulling out their phone when the light is on red is very unlikely to cause an accident. Ironically enough, it would make more sense to be afraid if a person is just like driving freely with the phone, right? Like driving, like I said, on the freeway. Even though it seems like there's like a paradox where you're more likely to hit a car when there's a whole bunch of them on the road and you're like, all like bumper for bumper. And then if there's less people and you're going faster, it seems like there's a lesser likelihood. It's crazy, but just I'm giving you an example of how this stuff doesn't have the nuances that actual law breaking would have. Like when you have people who go on trial for murder, they can get lighter sentences depending on the circumstances, right? If it was premeditated, if it was self-defense, you get the idea that there's like a gray area within the actual discussions of what breaking the law is, because depending on what caused it, it might not be as severe for you as if you just deliberately did it. But you don't see that with these citations. If you didn't know not to park by a fire hydrant, they don't care. If you didn't know not to pull your phone out, they don't care. If you didn't know not to possibly go a little bit above the speed limit, right, 60, 70, on a 45, they don't care. And it's amazing again how it's all couched in the rhetoric. And there will be people who write this in the comment section of like, oh, they need to make sure that someone is. It's like, listen, it's all about money. These citations are ways for the city to wag its finger at you and go, oh, you terrible person, look at what you did. Although it's not too bad, but just give us this amount of money and we'll make it go away. I mean, that's literally all this comes down to. Just how can we get money for ourselves through punishing the people who live here? You wouldn't be remiss for looking at these citations as like what's a good way of putting it? Almost like a tax from the city just for living here, just for like driving in the wrong place or going. And this goes back to why I was talking about the rotten society and how expensive everything is. Imagine paying like $2,000 plus in rent every month, and then probably like several hundred for gas, several hundred for food each month. You're almost $3,000, and then like because you looked at your phone or you drove over the speed limit when nobody was even on the road anyway, here's an extra $50, $60 for you to pay. And then what's even worse is that now you're seeing places like, again, that those two stops in LA where they're talking about charging people $293. So it's always going to be really liberating to not have to deal with the ridiculous cost of rent anymore, because the stuff, like, it's already borderline unaffordable. When you start adding in stupid stuff like the city trying to, again, do their little their little squeeze on you, it just gets unsustainable. But yeah, that's just another reminder of like why society is so rotten, where even the rules, right, not the ones of like actual law breaking, but just like rules relating to the road and traffic and stuff like that, it's all based around profit over an actual concern for anybody. And like I said, California is one of the worst places to live if you have a car in the United States, because you will run into these problems at some point or another. You're going to go on some street where they have cars all pushed up against each other, and you'll have nowhere to park, or if you can find somewhere to park, it's something that is kind of like shady, like in front of on a red, or some other thing that is not to your liking, or it would leave you kind of raising your eyebrow, like, is this really a good place to park? And you'll just be like out of options. But not even. But besides that, you'll get into these. You'll see traffic on the freeway where like people get on the freeway so they can get to work or to wherever they're trying to go fast, and then because so many people have it ingrained in them to just like get on the freeway and you'll be there faster. You'll see cars backed up sometimes for 20-30 minutes. I talked before about like with my job, the current crappy one. I left the first day I ever had work there. I left an hour early and ended up being like 20 minutes late, almost 20 minutes late. And then when I would have shifts at 7 o'clock at night, I would leave at 4:30 in the afternoon because there was just so much damn traffic. I didn't want to risk, being late. So it's a mess. But like I said, if you get a citation or some other, parking ticket or whatever, none of it is about protecting people. It is a way for the city to make some money. That's all that anybody cares about. You are seeing the rhetoric of law and order used as a ploy to generate profit for the people that they answer to. It's really disgusting.